Hello guys and welcome to my channel. Today I thought I'd try and kickstart my channel off by showcasing some of my bioactive gecko terrariums and maybe covering some tips and tricks to constructing such terrariums for small to medium sized lizards. This terrarium we're looking at right now belongs to my Rhacodactylus lechianus female. She's a Moral Isle E, and I've tried to sort of model it off of New Caledonia. So the main flora I'm using are bird nest ferns. This particular species is Asplenium nidus, which aren't found in New Caledonia, but they give it that New Caledonian feel because there are larger bird nest fern species in New Caledonia, and they're sort of distributed around the terrarium around a large nest tree in the middle, which has some nice dried fungi on it, which I've attached to the cork bark to give it that naturalistic look, which looks quite nice. This is a nice hollow tree in the middle, by the way, so she can go in and out of that. She sort of tends to sleep on the floor, but you know, what can you do? And at the back there we've got a creeping fig, which I'm hoping is going to grow all over the background, but we'll see. It's a really hit or miss with this terrarium. In terms of the detritivores in the soil, I've got some springtails, snails and woodlice. So here's a species label. So there she is, her name's Littlefoot. She's really been quite a good gecko. She's quite shy and it can be quite difficult to handle her because she's got so many nooks and crannies to escape into. I don't know if you can see her in there, probably not. I'll do a separate video sort of covering and looking at my animals at some point. But yeah, there we go. There is my Rhacodactylus lechianus bioactive enclosure. Okay, so this is my next bioactive enclosure. This particular enclosure doesn't have any animals in it at the moment. I'm still sort of waiting for the plants to grow in this enclosure, and it's of course because it's my largest bioactive enclosure. I'm sort of leaving it empty for the time being while I work on it. But this enclosure, I'm thinking of doing a sort of crested gecko breeding project in, sort of trying to work with some genetics, get some morphs and stuff like that, but I'm not sure yet what's going to go in here. So this has two large nest trees in it, one on the left, one on the right, and I've sort of planted pothos and ivy at the base of each, which is going to hopefully grow up and give it a more naturalistic feel, which it is actually doing at the moment. It's growing up very rapidly. We've got fungi all over this enclosure. That's why it's a bit more of a fantasy feel to this enclosure. I haven't really modelled it off any real world environment. But yeah, the plants are growing really well in this enclosure. I can't wait to see how it looks. I think the fungi look a bit overkill, but I think once the plants grow in, there's a creeping fig down there. I think once the plants grow in, the fungi won't look as overkill and they'll really blend into the enclosure, which will be really cool. Oh, another thing worthy of note, this is a 90cm by 45cm, 90cm Exoterra. So this is the largest Exoterra you can get. And in terms of constructing these enclosures for small to medium-sized lizards, you really got to look at the flora you're using and the decorations you're using. You can have, like, I would recommend sticking to plants that adhere their stems to a rough surface, like multiple different climbers you can get, as these are less likely to sustain damage from geckos jumping around the enclosure and stuff like that, especially if you're housing an insectivorous species, which is going to go mental during the night catching insects. But it is a bit easier with New Caledonian species, because I primarily keep New Caledonian species. So we've just fogged the enclosure up there, and it looks quite nice when you open it. And also get like foliage plants that aren't sort of susceptible to damage with nice flexible leaves. They do quite well as flora in these terrariums. So yeah, there's some nice tips, and there's that one. Okay, and this is the last setup I'll be showing today. This bioactive enclosure belongs to my male mossy gecko. He's a mainland mossy gecko, so he would be from the island of Grantaire, which is the mainland of New Caledonia. Mainland mossy geckos differ from those on the Isle of Pines by having a shorter snout length and also are darker in coloration. I think there's also a differential in size, but I'm not quite sure on that. I've sort of set up this enclosure in the same way as my Rhacodactylus lechianus. The main foliage plant are bird nest ferns. There's a nice creeping fig at the back there, and I'm using a lot of dried fungi again, which I quite like because I just love the naturalistic feel they give to the enclosure. So yeah, I've sort of set it up in the same way. Nice large nest tree in the middle. lots of places to hide, and this mainland mossy gecko is such a good eater. Like, he eats so much, it's incredible. But yeah, there's my last enclosure. I'll hopefully showcase the animals in a different video coming soon, but it's quite hard because they're very hard to get hold of in these enclosures, as you can imagine. So yeah, I'll hopefully see you again in another video. Peace.